Hey everybody, how are you? Robin here with Oracle Rising. So I have a bit of a new production corner, if you want to say. So I found a spot in my living room with my mandala behind me, which I absolutely love, and my comfy chair with my homemade Afghans. So I'm quite comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable. I feel like I just sunk away from you guys. But anyway, welcome here, guys. And I wanted to talk a little bit about shadow work, and I'll sit up so I don't fade totally out of the camera angle. So shadow work is really looking at your shadow self and finding ways to shine light of love and acceptance and then merge together so that you don't feel like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And if you don't know what that reference is, there's movies and books, but anyway. So I do tarot card readings on my other channel, so I have a really good example of what the shadow self is through the Witch's Tarot. So I have this book here, and I'm going to look at that in just a second, but I have my notes here in my gigantic notebook, so we'll run through that. So the shadow is a psychological term for things that we cannot see in ourselves. So that's the aspect of denying the darker half of you. And everybody has a dark side. You know that if you engage with anybody at all, and the closer you get to people, the more you get to see their shadow self or their darker half, right? So shadow work involves looking at darker aspects of yourselves and showing love and acceptance. So I have 4 points here related to shadow work. So do not deny or feel shame when experiencing negative thoughts. So I really try to keep things light, in a way that I'm not a negative person. I used to be an incredibly negative person. My experiences were negative. I grew up that way. So it took me a long time to be able to move through that. And of course, as a human, I'm not 100% sunshine, and I don't think anybody should expect to be, because we are here to experience all the emotions as a human. But it's where you follow. How long are you going to get run down into negative thinking and negative experiences, and what are you going to amplify? You might have seen this experience in either yourself or other people, where just the smallest thing set them off, and then all of a sudden they're like some raging tyrant lunatic, screaming and punching walls and being really destructive. So that's where your shadow work comes in to prevent that. And then the more you embrace the light half of yourself, the more that you're able to look at things with a sense of detachment and go, okay, well, that happened. And well, yeah, I felt a moment about that, but I'm okay now. I feel a lot more stable. So that's where not denying that it's happening, because when you tamp down those emotions, where do you think they're going? They're just being squashed down for later. And then if you're adding layer after layer after layer, then one day it's just going to be like pulling the pin on a grenade and you lose your mind. If anybody has ever experienced that, I know exactly how it feels. I grew up in a very explosive home. So that was my example, was that negativity. So I had to work really hard on myself. And then I went through the dark night of the soul, and then I would try and just pretend that the negative things weren't happening after a while. But now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel very good about that. I might be angry at somebody. I might have a couple of less than flattering things about the situation, or people run through my head, but I'll look at it and just, okay, thanks for showing up and you can go away now, but I'm not denying it. So that's a big thing of doing shadow work. The second thing I have here is to reverse shadow thoughts. So this is where, people really run themselves down. and this is really rampant. And, I have children and I've seen it happen in them, and friends, family, people that come to me on this channel and my other YouTube channel, really just not thinking very flattering things about themselves. So some examples are, and especially when you put the phrase "I am" in front of it, thinking that you're awful or useless or a terrible person, or you're not good enough, or too fat, too thin, stupid, just the things that people think about themselves. And this is the shadow. This is the inner saboteur of the shadow. And this is where the light shining in and being able to comfort your own self and know that inner child, that inner shadow self is scared and needs love. It doesn't need your rejection, but it needs coaching, so reversing those thoughts out as soon as you start thinking them, and again, that's a choice. Do you want to sit and think all these horrible things about yourself, or should you be your own biggest cheerleader? So these are really serious choices to be made. And being cognitive of this stuff is probably going to be the beginning of your shadow work journey. So the third point I have here is what I've been expressing a little bit throughout, to show compassion to your shadow self. So I find that the shadow self for a lot of people emerges in childhood or young adulthood, when things are happening beyond their control. So the shadow self comes out to protect, with that sort of abrasive behavior, or throwing the tantrums, or, just the explosions of verbal garbage and stuff like that. So understanding where your shadow self came from, and that your shadow self is miserable, like, how would you treat a good friend or your child or anybody that came up to you and just started saying, "Oh, I'm just so useless and I'm this and that," you would put your arms around them and say everything's going to be okay, and don't say those terrible things about yourself. And you would show that person compassion and love, and really try to coax them into a brighter, positive way of thinking. So you deserve this too. You deserve your own compassion, and to sit down with yourself and say, wow, that's some really painful thinking, and I really have to extend love to all of me, not just the bright, cheerleader, perky, happy-go-lucky you. I mean, there is that darkness, and it's been with you every step of your journey, and it deserves your love and compassion as much as, your more presentable or favorable side. So what I have here, you guys, the fourth point is to do some sort of meditation and release traumas gained as a child. This is part of shadow work. I'm not a shadow work expert, but I've been through a pretty extensive dark night of the soul. I had a lot of shadow work to do. I had a lot of damage done as a child. So I found a couple of really interesting inner child meditations, and you can just go to YouTube and just search them. But my favorite by far is Kenneth Suarez, and his last name is Souras. And honestly, the first time I did, I think he's got a couple. One of his inner child meditations, like, I just sobbed. And this was only a couple years ago, so it's pretty relevant. And basically just find whatever works for you. And, you might need somebody to talk to, either professionally, I'm not a professional, or just start your journey of shadow work. And I know there's lots of people. I, of course, on my social media, I follow a lot of really positive people, and I know that there are people that do shadow work. So you just have to find somebody. But if you're going to do that, you guys, I really just want to encourage you to, excuse me, I don't want to zoom in too close. Do your research on who you're hiring. Make sure you look at reviews and stuff like that. Unfortunately, there are people that take advantage of people that are struggling with themselves and, regaining balance in their life. So that was just a little bit of shadow work related to the shadow self. So I'm just picking up the Witch's Tarot book here right now. So I don't know how much you know about tarot, but in every deck there's a card called the Devil. And what people seem to not realize is the devil is you. The devil is inside you, just the way that God is inside you. But I don't look at it as a devil, but it's depicted that way in tarot cards because that is sort of synonymous for wrongdoing or something like that. But anyway, I'm just going to move on. So in the Witch's Tarot, that devil card is replaced by the shadow self. So have a look at this card. And, you know, here's the shadow self, which you could really think of as yourself, lurking within you, living your life along with the aspects of sun and brightness and light. And this is how it probably makes you feel, and other people, you know, and it comes out to protect you. But then here's the light of your soul shining in, trying to relieve that and trying to comfort the shadow self. So this is a very complex subject. And once again, I'm not an expert, but I have been through it. You know, I went through like a 7-year dark night of the soul, and I relied on my shadow self quite a bit throughout my life because I just wasn't mentored or nurtured to walk in the light. So, and that's part of the reason that I'm here. So here's some of the keywords for the shadow self. And it says, allowing another person to have power over you and your reactions. Okay. So that other person could be yourself, you know, because we all live in duality. So defending yourself from, this says harmful magic. That's a little bit deeper probably. And overcoming fear to emerge victorious. So this is really something you need to work on for yourself so that you're not afraid of losing your temper or acting in violent ways or sinking into a depression because you're thinking really hateful thoughts against yourself, and being able to detach from what is collective thinking sometimes, especially if you're an empath, you guys. Some of the things that you're thinking and feeling might not even necessarily belong to you, but because you're just so open, you know, you got to learn how to protect yourself. So from all of these things, and I've got videos, you guys, on being an empath and protecting yourself and protecting your light. So go ahead and look through all the videos and see if anything jumps out that might be able to help you at least start your path while you do shadow work, and recognizing that it's you, it's all you, and you all of you deserves love, not just half of you, right? So, and finding people that can accept that in you is going to be one of the most beautiful and just so compelling in another person. You know, it's easy to accept somebody's light side, it really is, but when you look into the darkness of somebody's soul, and you can and think, okay, well, yeah, that's cool because I have this too. So anyway, I think this is such, it's such an interesting subject to me because I've lived it and I've seen other people live it. And I really hope that this can help you in some small way to, you know, walk in dark and light and accept yourself, both halves. So anyway, I'm going to go, you guys, and just sending love and light. Many blessings. Many blessings. Bye.